Hi, a very good afternoon. Thank you so much for having taken the time to join me in today's webinar. This is Jay, a product expert and a security consultant here at ManageEngine. So, in today's webinar, we are going to be talking about something that is fundamental yet the epitome of IT security. Why would I call that so? I'm presenting to you from Orlando today. So we've got the Ignite going on right here. Microsoft has hosted its Ignite, the year-on-year grand event that happens. We've been able to understand as to how the whole idea of passwords and the spectrum of things that are associated with passwords and securities and identity management is changing at an insanely fast pace. So we had Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, talking about passwords and why it's going to be important to come up with techniques that are not your usual basic security questions, but something as cool as an authentication that happens through a device that you possess. Yes, I'm talking about mobile authentication. And guess what? About 6 months ago, even before the mobile authenticator got out in the market, we were able to put together a solution that provided the same functionality. And in fact, it is for Active Directory and Active Directory identity authentication. We've got it in this tool that I'll be walking you through too. So let's get started with today's session. We are going to be talking about effective password management techniques. Why exactly this topic? The security of an organization is only as strong as its weakest link. And who exactly are the weakest link? The users, right? So you have users to date who have their passwords written on sticky notes and have it stuck right on top of their desktops. You just can't do anything about it, irrespective of how stringent your security norms become, how stringent your compliance policies become. Still, educating your users on getting your security right is a very big challenge all organizations face. So, what's the obvious workaround, or what's the obvious way to get this sorted? Create a very strong foolproof password management system, and at the same time also empower your users to use it absolutely effortlessly. What I'm trying to talk about right here is a GUI, or a user management console, and a web interface from where they can reset their passwords, unlock their accounts, probably do a few changes to their Active Directory attributes, the common ones, and in fact go a few steps further and requests for subscriptions to group or single sign-on to those applications that they use commonly day in day out. It gets really, really cool through today's session, and the agenda is like this. Here you go. So we will be discussing on these important parameters. I'm going to be starting the session giving you an overview of why self-service is important and how the idea of self-service is not essentially something that's new. Then I'll talk about how group membership subscriptions can be done through self-service and why exactly is it efficient. We'll go further discussing as to how to negate the common password attacks, things like your dictionary attack and your brute force attack. So you need not fret if you go through anything of that sort, because first place we have a solution that would never really let you go through all of that. That's the idea, right? Why react when you can proact? That's the idea behind today's session. And the next two things that we'll be discussing are essentially, if I were to say a password management session, it can never be without single sign-on. You have to talk about single sign-on and how exactly are we going to be different than the other competition that's out there, and why exactly should you be choosing us. All right. So getting into today's session, we'll start off by understanding what password policies and self-service are. So we've come across a lot of policies as administrators day in day out. In fact, we are bogged down by so many policies that we need to have like a separate tracker for what policies we have. Yeah, it's that complex. It could be a group policy that you're working with, or if you're that smart administrator who wants to do fine-grained policies, FGPP, fine-grained password policies, you might be knowing it. Microsoft essentially has two solutions for deploying these requirements when it comes to an Active Directory domain. And the requirements for password policies can either be done through a GPO or through an FGPP, like I told you. But what's the problem? Both these solutions have the same list of constraints. They've got minimum password length, they've got maximum password length. They are talking about how you can have special characters in place, or at the max have things like uppercase and a lowercase case difference. That is all. So how old is this password policy again? It is almost as old as me. It's about 18 years old. So that is the idea behind why this specific approach to password management is not necessarily the best approach. Although all these password policies can be configured the way you want, still, what's the problem? You never really know which gets priority over the other. There's no single pane of glass to tell you which policy takes effect. And most of the times, we end up thinking that the wrong policy was set and there's going to be absolutely something else in place because there's local policy also in the picture. So there is a lot of confusion behind how passwords can be fine-grained and how passwords can be granular. So we are going to be talking about a straightforward, simple approach, yet granular approach, a GUI-based approach where I can very well filter out which user gets what policy. I can go at an OU level, I can attack this problem at a group level, I can do it at a user level. Trust me, this gets a lot more cooler. I'm going to quickly demonstrate how this specific functionality works. All right, so the user interface that is right on your screen right now is the ADSelfService Plus user console. And in this console, what do we see? We've got a quick overview of what's happening in the organization. Things like who's enrolled, who's not enrolled, whose passwords need to be reset, and how the account needs to be unlocked, and things like that. The concern at this point in time is policies, right? I'm going to quickly open up a few policies that I have pre-configured in my organization. So I'd recommend you to configure password policies in ADSelfService Plus at a business unit level or at an organization unit level. So you, as your administrator of the organization, very much are aware as to what are your constraints. Your organization's entire password policy would have a few constraints. The administrator accounts and the service accounts would have constraints that are much more stringent. Maybe a few users in the finance department would need absolutely secure passwords and would require probably more than just two factors of authentication. They'd need three maybe. So the cases are going to be really specific and they're going to be innumerable. If you were to do it the Active Directory way, like I already told you, it's going to be really difficult. Instead, what's on your screen right now is a list of policies that can be configured to be granular, that can be configured to be specific to an OU, and at the same time, I can also work with the hierarchy. So this is a really cool option when we are considering inheritance, because we all understand that deny permissions or deny privileges always take precedence over allow privileges. But when it comes to password policies, such granularity is not available with your default password policies. That's a challenge. So here, what I'm trying to show you is I can get a specific department to be on top of my entire password policy. So this way, the users of the sales department will have a password policy which would take precedence over the entire organization's password policies. So I can have filters to specific users inside the sales department. I can do as many number of layers to this password policy that I'm walking you through. How exactly are we configuring these password policies again? If that's the question in your mind, I'm going to show you how to do that. First place, the tool that we are discussing today is a self-service tool. So are your users really new to the idea of self-service? Keep thinking about that question. I'm going to give you the answer in a while. All right. So here I'm going to try and show you what's available. You can let your users reset their passwords, self-update their accounts, or in fact even change their passwords when the need arises. There are a few other things that are really important, especially when it comes to unlocking accounts, this is something that you'd want to do with a little caution. If it's the service accounts or the administrator accounts that are being locked out, you might think twice before giving them the privilege to unlock accounts, because if the accounts are locked out, they're locked out for a reason, right? So you can establish policies based on the profile of a user. I don't want my administrators to be able to unlock account unless it's done at a master level, unless it's done from the master administrator. No, I don't want my administrator to be able to self-update details. Not required. You can disable that. But I want my end users, the normal users, the ones who forget their passwords all the time, those users to be able to unlock their accounts, reset their passwords, and change passwords. So I can have policies, and at the same time, we were talking about granularity, right? Granularity is where I get to decide if my employees in Thailand, let's say, they have a different norm to follow. The organization that's set up right there is bound to the rules and regulations of the land, where they have a stronger, stringent password or identity handling in general. If that's the case, I can have a different password policy for that OU. Likewise, I can keep customizing based on my requirements. When it comes to groups, again, I have the entire list of groups, and I can specify users or filter users based on groups. If inheritance is what you're worried about, we've got that covered. We wouldn't let the child OU inherit the same password policy. So this way, you can create different policies for your child OU and let it take precedence over the parent OU. Such options are also available. So this is going to be essentially the fundamental building block of the entire solution that we're talking today. So understanding password policies inside this solution is absolutely important. And guess what? Like you already know, it's not that difficult. We are trying to do filters. We are trying to get granular. We would want users belonging to different OUs and groups having different policies. We just saw how to configure policies, and we just saw how to set precedence over one policy over another. So that is the first step towards using AD Self-Service Plus. So all along, we've been talking about using Self-Service Plus from an admin point of view, right? Beyond that, the most common challenge that all of us have is the challenge of getting our users onboarded to the product. When I'm talking about onboarding, I'm talking about the instance where you send an email to your user, and what's the innate response of an user when the admin sends an email? They probably don't open it. Even if they open it, they don't read it properly. Even if they read it, the next thing that they automatically do is mark you spam or delete your email. They do not really act upon what exactly you're asking for. We've had instances, right? We've asked them to do that. This basic things like reminding them about their password changes, they don't do that at all. So what we've got is a super cool way, in my opinion. I would say this is the best way to do it. If your users don't really get to work and get what you do what you want them to do, pretty simple. You take the responsibility, enroll them on their behalf. I'm going to start from the bottom. I'm going to be starting with the enrollment of users with a database. So I have a database of user details. I also have a database of security questions. So pretty simple, I can have that imported into the product, use that as an authentication factor. I already have enrollment data of my users in a HR tool. Great. Export that as a CSV, import into ADSelfService Plus. All right. If you're one of those administrators who is really genuine and really sweet to your users in the organization, no problem. We've got an option for you, which is to send them notifications, the ones that you always do. And if your users are sweet enough, they can very much appreciate the email that you sent, or act on the email and the push notification that you sent and enroll themselves. Here comes my most favorite way of enrolling the users, which is forced enrollment. This always works. No second thoughts. This always works. In my opinion, I would not ask you to do anything else but force enrollment. And the screen right here shows you that a user, once added into your platform, and once you enroll the force enrollment script, they never ever get away without signing up for the product. So the first thing that they see when they log on to the product is an enrollment button. And do you see a close button anywhere? Yes, that's what I thought. No close button. They just can't escape the screen. They need to enroll. It would take about 2 minutes for them to enroll, and forever they're going to be self-serving themselves with password management. So that's the idea. Just get them to do it once, and there you go. You would be saving tremendous call volumes to your help desk. So force enrollment is the most preferred option. You could pop up a simple notification on their screen telling them the message, asking them to enroll, answer the 2 security questions that you've configured, and there you go. You've got your users enrolled even before you know. After having enrolled the users, what's the challenge? They still keep coming up with creative ways to find a workaround with the policies that you set. Gartner studies reveal that in 2017, the password that was most used, or the one that was most commonly used, was capital P A SSWORD @123. And what exactly is that? It's password at 123. What exactly are you going to do about this? How do you get your users to not to use this? And there exactly we have the password policy enforcer, which is a more intelligent form of your existing password policy enforcement that happens through Active Directory. I wouldn't call it a replacement to the Microsoft password rules that are there. It's more of an hardening that happens to your existing password policy. So here, if you can see, beyond the parameters such as length, beyond the parameters such as characters, we've got certain really interesting and effective ways of strengthening passwords. I'm not going to let them set passwords with continuous alphabets or continuous strings of numbers. I'm not going to let them set passwords with the same letter or number repeating twice in their passwords. And in fact, if you've been a victim of a dictionary attack or a brute force attack, you totally relate to the idea as to how painful it is to recover your organization. So what we've done is we've kind of got cheeky here and we've reverse engineered the whole thing. So for all those attackers who go online, download a database of dictionary and then initiate a dictionary attack, here you go. I can get the same dictionary the same attacker uses, upload it into my product, and use that as a filter to not let any user in my organization choose a word or a phrase from the dictionary that's already there. So that way, your users never really get to set words like password, the name of the organization, the most commonly used words. And in fact, if you want to stop them from using a few patterns, 1, 2, 3, name of the organization, their first name, things like that also can be done with the patterns options that's available that blocks all of that. All right. Again, just like all the time, I have a specific favorite here as well. And this time, my favorite is called a passphrase. What exactly am I doing right now? So the password right here would become absolutely difficult for an administrator, or sorry, for a hacker to hack through, because one, it's 15 plus characters long. Two, it's a passphrase where the password's entropy goes exponentially high. And I also have a special character there. So it would probably take roughly about 600 to 700 years for somebody trying to hack this password and crack through, because it's a passphrase and the length of the password really matters. So if you're one of those administrators who would want your users to have long passwords, and if you want to mess around with them, you can very much do that. And they can have words here because this essentially bypasses all the other parameters you'd need in place. This is a lot more stronger than any of the other options that are available. Passphrases above 15 characters long with 1 or 2 special characters. That's all you need for your users. All right, you could do that. You could also every now and then educate your users on why this is important and how your organization things can be really easy for both of you. It's a win-win, right? When I'm talking about win-win, there's another thing that I want you to notice. So we've got so many policies now lined up, so much happening all this long. How am I going to make it easy for my users? So what if I tell you, you can give them the solution right where the problem begins? And where exactly does the problem begin? The log on screen. They forget their passwords when they try to log on, right? So you can very well have a prompt message that tells them what are the policies that they need to, or what are the rules that they need to meet. Say for example, the minimum length, the character count, the patterns that they shouldn't be using, things like that. Give them prompts, give them checklists of things to do, and once they get through, the passwords are going to be reset or changed. And likewise, from their GINA or from their lockout screen, the control alt delete screen as you call, you can get them to have the provision to reset their passwords or unlock their account. So this is how it would work. So I'm going to give you a quick demo on how exactly this would work. So I'm locking out myself. All right, I'm going to try and log in right now. What's my password? La 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 la. All right. Nope, that's a wrong password. Again, that's a wrong password. Okay, what do I do? If I were to not have ADSelfService Plus, I would just have the message that says the password is incorrect and try again. Irrespective of how many ever times I try, I've already forgotten my password. This is of no help to me. I am bound to call my administrator in the middle of the night to get myself a password reset or unlock my account. If I were to have the solution in place, on the other hand, what do I have right now? I have a little button that tells me reset or unlock. The moment I click on this, I have a GUI opening up giving me two options, one to reset password and one to unlock account. This is exactly what I want. And like I told you, do you remember the question that I asked you earlier? Are your users new to the idea of self-service? Are you new to the idea of self-service? The answer is no. Do we call up Google or do we call up Facebook if we forget our passwords? Not at all. We just hit reset password, and when we hit reset password, it's going to ask you for a few details, those basic details that you're already aware of. In this case, let's say username. So J is my name. I know the answer for that question. And then what happens? I'm prompted with a few factors of authentication, which essentially would be two security questions. And there you go. I know the answer for these security questions. Quickly keying in the answers. And as I'm typing, I'd want you to notice something on the right top corner. We've got a ticker that's running. So for all those attackers who are trying to attempt and guess passwords, good luck. So I've keyed in the answers to my security question. I've also keyed in the captcha just to ensure that a bot does not try to crack my password or my account. So I've made myself an exception right there. And then what do we have right here? A screen that is going to let me reset my passwords, not just in Active Directory, but in all these other platforms where my password or my product has synced. So I'm able to see the minimum criteria that I need to meet to get going with the password self-service. Once I figure out what the new password is, I hit reset, and there you go. Before even you know, my passwords are reset across different platforms, and I'm good to log in into my new system. So this way, I do not need to call my administrator, and I've reset my own password. So it gets that simple. All right, so what are we talking about right here? A button that gets me to reset my own password from my logon screen, from the place where I generally tend to forget what my password is. So that's the kind of functionality that the product gives you. So we've got few more options when it comes to password policy enforcement, the ones that I'd want you to explore. So go on, download the trial of the product, We are here to help you just in case you need anything. Work around with the product, see which functionality suits you best. In case if you get to explore more, obviously there's a lot more. I'm just giving you the overview. If you find anything interesting, please write to me. Let's discuss. Let's see what best we can do for you from there. All right. We've been talking about password policy enforcement. So we've so far discussed how Active Directory Self-Service Plus password policies are much superior than your FGPP, your fine-grained password policy, or your group policy password settings. We are also definitely up for overcoming the shortcomings of your native password policies, which is why we had a password policy enforcer that strengthens or hardens my existing password policy or my native password policy. In addition to that, during the course of the password reset or the self-service, you saw how simple and user-friendly that is. Once the user gets through all this, there's something that always goes on your mind, right? Okay, what if an attacker still guesses the answers for these questions? An intelligent attacker with probably great IQ, he guesses the answers. Can I do something about it? Absolutely, yes. That's exactly why we have multi-factor authentication. And guess what? There's great news for you guys. The most recent release of ADSelfService Plus has Windows two-factor authentication. How cool would it be for your users to self-authenticate themselves on their screen, on their logon screen with a two-factor? So the moment they log in or finish typing in their credentials and tries authenticating themselves into it, there's a pop on their mobile asking for their fingerprint or asking for a touch ID or asking for a push notification and approval, things like that. It gets that quick, and there are going to be about 6 or 7 different multi-factor authentication options that you can work with. The basic ones like your security questions, the ones like your verification code that gets sent to your email or to your text notification. We've also got Google Authenticator for those employees who are on the road. Your road warriors can take up Google Authenticator, and definitely Duo Security RSID, no doubt about it. And in addition, I'm going to show you something really, really new that just launched about a few days back. A multi-factor authentication methodology that's a lot more convenient if you're one of those administrators who's got an identity provider in place or an identity management tool in place. It could be your Okta, it could be OneLogin, or in fact it could even be your Active Directory Federation services. So if you're working with multiple vendors, if you're working with multiple organizations, if you have users trying to log into your domain all the time from outside, there you go. You've got an authentication for AD Federation services in addition to all that we already offer. And as always, my most favorite and the coolest, the fingerprint authentication is also available. I definitely recommend you to download the trial. Go on, it's absolutely free. Download the trial. The mobile application is also available for free. Get your users to use this functionality for quite a bit, and trust me, you'd have users coming back to you telling and even thanking you for making it that simple for them. All right, so that's about multi-factor authentication. And if you are a little concerned about how to go granular in things, we've always got the advanced options for the advanced users where you could do a lot more tweak around with the multi-factor options available, make it more secure and customize them per your requirement. So far we've been talking about strong passwords, making the authentication more stronger, things like that. But again, users are users, aren't they? How am I going to get them to reset their password when they need to reset their password? 35% of calls to the help desk, all right, in a normal organization, in an ideal scenario, would be calls for password self-service or for password reset and for account unlock. All right, so here I have a provision to notify them, just remind them, just have a system that keeps notifying them every now and then in a specific frequency. And it's proven that more the number of times you remind them at an interval, the more habituated they become to the idea of resetting their passwords. And even before you know, the second or third time, they already reset their passwords when they receive the first notification. That's the idea that we are trying to work with, altering your user's behavior with a very simple trigger, which is a notification. It can be a notification over email, it can be a notification over text, it can be over push. All we need is a screen, and we get there notifying the users for their password resets, for their account unlocks, and for their expiry as well. So here, what we need to understand is the ability to notify them in selective intervals. I can do it on a daily basis, but then that's a little annoying, right? So I would probably prefer doing it on a very specific you know proven frequency. 1 week before the password resets, 3 days before it, 1 day before it expires, and on the day of expire. 7310. That's the magic number that you need to remember. And guess what? On the third day, they would definitely get you reset, get going with the reset, because you've already intimated them through different channels over email, text, and the push notifications as well. All of that can be configured. All of that can get granular. If you want to get a little pushy, I wouldn't recommend that, but if you still want to get a little pushy, you can always intimate the corresponding stakeholders in charge, who can send out a notification to their manager if probably they're out of office, something of that sort. You can get the manager to get this done. You can do that. Or if you want to know if they've received the notification or not, because most of the time, what's the usual response? I never received the mail, I never received the notification. That's what your users tell you, right? So you can have a notification for the notification that's been sent. All right, check if it's been delivered or not delivered, and if not delivered, you can definitely initiate another notification from the application side. Okay, so this again is a wonderful functionality. What I'll do is, towards the end of the webinar, the functionality that I'm talking about, which is password expiry notification, is available as a free tool. Yes, we are generous. I totally agree with you. So this part of the product is available for free, absolutely free, however big your organization is. Take it, implement it, use it to the fullest, and write to me back if you really observe a change in the number of calls that you have for password resets and account unlock. This is going to be an action item for today, for you to go back and implement this in your organization. You could do that in 5 minutes. That's a challenge. You'd finish that off in 5 minutes, and there you go. 30% of your call volume to your help desk is already saved. All right. Now, coming to the interesting part, which is single sign-on. Yes, we've got support to 100 plus applications. We also work with custom applications. If your organization has a few, we let you link your existing Active Directory with those applications through those basic attributes. You can link them. And single sign-on is going to be two ways. One, you could give them a dashboard and let them single sign on. Or if you want it to be still simpler, since we've got the power of Active Directory, you can do an NTLM based single sign-on. You can get your users to just log on to their laptops, all right, as simple as that. And when they open up an application, even before they know, they're already logged in. So it's up to you. Now that there are multiple factors of authentication in place to authenticate an user's identity, you need not really worry about the security aspect of this specific approach of NTLM. We already got multi-factor. It's just the user who gets to open his or her laptop. So obviously, why not give them access to their accounts straight away? So that is one intelligent functionality that we've got. And password synchronization. How can I forget password synchronization? It makes it really, really simple. My mother used to have the same password for all her accounts. This was about 10 years back. She had the same password for every account that she had online. This, in fact, is a good approach if you have a very strong password. And if you change that password, you remember one password and you keep changing it on a regular interval, that would turn out to be easy in most of the games, logistically. That's what I'm talking about. So password synchronization, again, takes the advantage of your strong Active Directory password policy that you've set through the product, and implements it across all the applications that you have synced it with. So one strong multi-factored password for your Active Directory is going to be the password for other applications as well. So that way it really becomes simple for your users. And at the same time, it's secure as well. All right. So what I've done today is I've kind of covered pretty much everything about self-service, self-update, being able to be notified, being able to set granular passwords, single sign-on, and password synchronization. I would like to leave you with one thought for the day. So what do we see right here? We see a simple calculation, a math problem. Let's say your organization has 500 employees. The average number of calls that your help desk receives from a user in a given year is about 20 to 21, right? So that makes it about 10,000 calls roughly in an entire year from your entire organization. And like surveys tell you, 30% of the calls are for help desk for password reset. So that is about 3,000 calls for nothing but password resets. And what's going to happen if you implement the solution in place? Nobody is going to call you up because they can self-serve themselves, and you'd end up saving a big chunk of money. Trust me, I'm not even going to complete this calculation. I'm going to let you do the math. Thank you so much for joining me in today's session. This is Jay, your presenter for the day. If you have any questions, shoot them right at me. I'm available for another few minutes to take them. Thank you.